applying our framework, the three C's, so customer, competition, and company.
Look, we're on, we're live. Let's get straight into it. So, Anastasia, welcome to B2B Outbound, and thank you very much for making the time to come and join us.
Thank you for having me.
And I've got to say, for everyone who doesn't know, thank you even more so because obviously you are about to give birth. So, I appreciate you literally any minute now heading off. But we appreciate it. So, as we're likely by the time this airs heading into the last quarter, I'm keen to know, how's the year been so far for you? And I guess that's probably a slightly loaded question because I think reading the show notes and producer Marita describes you as, I guess, a product marketing and go-to-market expert. All I'm hearing at the moment is sales teams are missing target, huge pipeline deficit. Sales leaders are kind of getting cut left, right, and center. So I guess ask you again, how's the year been so far?
Yeah, it's been challenging for sure. It's been challenging. I think, as you mentioned, so targets aren't being hit by many B2B tech companies. You have a hard time executing on the old playbooks that used to work quite well. I mean, to some extent, they still work, but to some extent, you also have to come up with new ideas, new playbooks. And I think the new playbook hasn't been yet reinvented. So it hasn't been the easiest year.
There's a lot of change happening, and I think even more to come, like you said. So it's going to be an interesting, fun time. But I guess let's take a step back. As mentioned, you're a founder for an amazing go-to-market consultancy, B2B Practitioners. But for everyone who doesn't know, everyone listening, what's the story? What's the journey? What led you to get here?
Yeah, I've been in tech environment for over 12 years now. So working on startup side, but then also changing to venture capital side. So I saw a lot of B2B tech companies over the course of those 12 years, be it on due diligence or as an operator coming into those companies and supporting, or as a marketing leader. And then I saw, together with some of my fellow colleagues, that there's like a gap between the strategy and execution bit. So we had, for example, in some later stage companies, we had consultancies like Bain that was so far removed in terms of their strategy and their strategy decks from what's even possible. And then we had obviously some agencies that were just basically running ads for us, but didn't have an understanding of the strategy. So with B2B practitioners, we're trying to bridge that, really coming from a strategic point of view, where we developed a framework to use on a strategic level, but then also we have the operators mindset. So we've done all the work ourselves, right? So we're all coming from B2B tech. And so we're trying to bridge that. So we're basically a go-to-market boutique advisory full of operators that have their niche specialty.
Very cool. It's fun to be, I say agency side, but consultant side for a change versus in the thick of everything that's going on. But you're based in Europe, based in Berlin, from what I understand. So I imagine, and having a look at some of your clients, there's a lot of US clients looking to break into Europe, looking to break overseas. I'd be really interested to understand, because we see this a lot. Like, many US companies see Europe as, you've got the US and you've got Europe, and it's a single market, and it's let's go to market in Europe. Like, how is that not true, or how is it so different to that?
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, Europe is not one market. I think that's the number one rule. There are significant differences when it comes to how people buy software, be it language, be it compliance, be it buyer decision process. So that's why we are kind of always looking at applying our framework, the three C's, so customer, competition, and company, for each market in Europe, right? So and I can dive a bit deeper into what each means.
Yeah, let's do
But I
it.
think, yeah, some of the things are definitely, I mean, the language barrier, but also even like tech, etc. So yeah, if I can go into
Yeah, let's do
more
three C. So what
detail.
were they again?
Perfect.
Customer.
So customer, competition, and a company.
Awesome.
So the customer, it's basically your ideal customer profile, right? And that can be very different, US versus DACH region, yeah, Germany, UK, Nordics, etc. So where we typically look at is to define, obviously, industry. What type of company are you going after in terms of number of employees, revenue, size, customer focus, and even like things like tech stack, right? So tech stack is, for example, a typical thing that is very different. If you think about ERP systems, right? US has their players,
Yeah.
Germany have their players. So then you might need totally different integrations for just to name an example, right? The same goes for like we look at positive or negative signals, right? So in the German, if you think about German mid-market, right, there's some companies that are very, legacy systems and very slow to adapt to digitization, etc. So if you encounter those, you might also want to maybe disqualify them because they're not your ICP. They won't be the first movers to adapt your solution. So that's and then on the customer side, also the buyer decision process. I think that's a huge one. So how do people buy in each market can differ significantly, right? So in Germany, for example, or even like other European markets as well, there's a lot of emphasis on privacy and security.
Yeah.
So you might have a data privacy officer coming into the buyer decision process, right? That will say, oh, no, we cannot purchase this solution because of A, B, C. There might be an IT person coming in and say, okay, we first need certain certifications. And we are very good in this whole compliance regulation bit in Europe, as you know. So the whole thing now with AI Act, right, GDPR, I mean, that's all coming from Europe. You have a new regulation coming soon with NIS2, where you have to where you have to work on IT security as well. So that's a big one, right? And then, if you think about also the personas, the personas may differ, their pain points may differ, right? So I think that's why we do first like the buyer decision process to map out the roles that are involved and the people that are involved in this buyer decision process. And then we create personas out of those. And for example, when we were working for Central, they had very different pain points and personas per market. So there were slightly different things. And obviously that means that the messaging will be different as well.
Yeah, makes sense. And just going back to one of the points you mentioned, let's take Germany as a great example because you're based in Germany, you live and breathe it. But even for me in the UK, which understands Europe, there's a huge differences in Germany versus Nordics versus France and everything else. Like from I guess debunking the myth from a GDPR outbound cold point of view, can you prospect into Europe without opt-in and consent?
Yeah, it's a bit of a gray area. So if you're a compliance company, you might not want to do that, or if you're, big on data privacy. But typically, you can do it if there is a reason to do it, right? So if you have a reason to contact the person, and it's a little bit easier, funny enough, to do it via phone than
Yeah.
in a written way.
Yeah, I mean, you have
Not
double
sure
opt-in, and
why.
you have, I mean, particularly Germany, obviously you've got double opt-in in certain
Yes,
email policies, but we
exactly.
find the phone is the highest point. But I'm interested because we speak to a lot of US companies, and I think some of them don't understand GDPR or certain legislations in Europe. So their legal team's blanket response is, we can't do it. We can't prospect because we don't understand it. So you just can't go cold. uh, I could argue no one should be going cold, but you can't go outbound without opt-in. And actually, it's sometimes a really hard blocker to try and educate them.
Yeah.
Say, no, no, you can if there's genuine interest. If you've done a lot of research around the buyer personas, and there's that balance. Say, these are the people we buy from, and this is who we typically sell to. Therefore, there's legitimate interest to go to that person and have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what we've done, for example, for a compliance platform, because they don't want to just they have to be even more careful with those type of outbound sequencing. They basically scanned their website, specifically their data protection policy
Yeah.
statement on the website. And if they encountered certain mistakes, they would then go and contact them and say, "Look, we saw you have this issue on the website. Let's maybe talk about your setup." So that works, right? And then obviously you can also do prospecting on LinkedIn, which is a bit easier than via email. You always have to have like a little button where you can
Yeah.
unsubscribe. Yeah.
Do we and I guess just going back to the point you mentioned, telephone, for example, in Germany is a better way than email because of the legislations and opt-ins. Like, based on all the changes that are happening, and everyone's talking about AI agents and all the other tech and tools out there. Like, what are you seeing that's working currently across Europe? And again, is it different region by region, or generally are they the same sort of tools and tactics working?
Yeah, I mean, Germany, I think is a bit more skeptical, and a bit less open to being contacted by phone than in the UK. I think it's pretty standard that
Yeah.
you're being called by various providers and have a chat. But I mean, companies still do it, right? If it makes sense from a go-to-market perspective, it's possible, but I think it's getting much harder, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, emails I get like so many, because you can automate it quite well with all the tools like Clay AI and so on out there. You can build lists of your target accounts, etc. But I'm amazed how spammy it still is, right?
Yeah.
And how you can literally see that they haven't done their research at all on your company. In terms of phone, I think it also got harder with now people also working from home sometimes, right? Not returning to the office. There's been some privacy changes with the iPhone that have been
Yeah.
introduced. So you might be asked if you even want to take the call. So it's definitely harder, and I agree with you that, to be honest, I don't believe in cold outbound. Yeah, it can be a part of the go-to-market motion mix, but just to do outbound, I think it's really hard. Even though there are some companies that grew with that channel, but it was also way back,
But that,
right?
I think a lot of, I guess, mediocre, and this is probably the reason for a lot of sales teams missing targets and pipeline deficit, is a lot of mediocre reps, or average reps, aren't using AI to its full advantage. So to your point, everyone's adopted, there's these AI SDRs as an example. All it is personalized digital email outreach at scale. So the challenge then is everyone's got access to the same data, the same intent, the same signals. So everyone's using the same. oh, congratulations on your new role. Congratulations, I noticed you got some funding. Everyone's using the same topics, and then these AI
Mhm.
tools are just spamming people with the same personalization. But to
Exactly.
your point, it's not really understanding the customer and not really understanding their business.
True. Yeah. I mean, you still need to know what's your ideal customer profile, who are you targeting in terms of job titles, what are their pain points, how do you message to them, right? And I think those basics, fundamentals, a lot of companies they just miss it, and then they just go and without talking to their ICP and just spam people. That's a huge issue, and
Yeah.
that's why there's like less reaction now. Like open rates are going down, reply rates are going down.
Yeah, and then again, like I think the next level on from that is if you are going to do any type of outbound, because we do a lot of outbound here at Punch, and the telephone is a great is a great tactic, but again, it's all comes back to understanding your audience. In Germany, for an example, we need to be a bit more direct, shorter conversations, get to the point quicker. In Italy, it's
Hmm.
all around building relationships and that trust and
Hmm.
building longer conversations, more casual, like understanding how people
Hmm.
buy is fundamentally the most important. So
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah. And I think even like if you think about, for example, the second C that we talk about is competition, right? So
Yep.
if you think about the competition might be very different market to market. So you have a lot of local players in Italy, France, Germany, that might be completely different or typically are completely different to the US. And so what you wanna do is also position yourself against those competitors, right?
Mm.
In your positioning, in your messaging. So and then have also the proof points that are localized, right? Have local logos, local certifications, etc. So I think that's another huge thing that companies forget to do. And how we typically do positioning is you first have to position yourself against doing nothing, because that's nobody has been fired for not using a software, right? So you have to convince people, why do you even need I don't know, web accessibility platform or ERP system or CRM or whatever, if they're
Mm.
still working with Excel, etc. And then the second thing is, okay, what are the direct competitors, and how do you position yourself against those competitors, and what are your USPs? And I think in outbound, obviously, you can then use that as well in your messaging. Why are you different? So what's the value that you bring? And I think that's also a lot of the times that gets forgotten and yeah, not used.
Yeah, super interesting. So you've got customers, really understand your customer, knowing what they care about, how to sell to them, who's the personas, what they care about. You've got competition, not just at a global level, but really understanding local market competition, and the differences between how you should be, setting the value against not just the wider market, but actually Italian players, French players, German players, and everyone else in between. And what's the third one? Third C.
The third one is company, so it's basically your product.
Okay.
Here we talk about package, how you package and price your product, right? So, are you a point solution? Are you a platform? Do you sell module? What's the pricing, right? So, do you have a transparent or a hidden pricing? Do you offer freemium versus free trial? Do you have like a price comparison, enterprise package, and then obviously that needs to mirror also your core value metrics, right? And the pricing, I mean, typically you think the pricing should be the same for each
Mm.
market, but then you sometimes have different add-ons, right? So
Yeah.
if you have, for example, different integrations to different platforms that can be, again, in the e-commerce space, right? You have very different marketplaces per country. So the add-ons will be different most of the time. Then you have stuff like VAT mechanics. Yeah, you have for B2B cross-border services, you have reverse charge that typically applies. So obviously you have to think about making your invoices compliant. Maybe offering different payment options or payment providers.
Yeah.
Payment terms can be different. So might be a bit longer than in the US. That can again reflect your CAC payback, your runway. So that's also a big one.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And again, something that probably I don't always think about, but I imagine a lot of our audience don't even think about. We're so obsessed on, yes, we know we should look at our ICP and personas, but it's done globally. Yes, we know we should look at our competition, but it's done globally. But I think actually narrowing down to each territory and each market is super interesting. Does that also, I know we're talking a lot about UK, Europe and the nuances there. Does that also apply to startup, scale up, enterprise, different stages of the journey, the type of company? Like, do the tactics change if you're a startup versus a enterprise account?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as a startup, you typically cannot support multiple go-to-market strategies, right? So that's why you want to focus on one market and maybe not go too early into the next market, or to go into the next market that is maybe more similar to your market. So if you're in the US, obviously UK might be the easiest next choice because it's more similar than, and then obviously the language barrier isn't that huge as going into DACH market, France, where they're obviously much lower English adoption than in Nordics, UK, Netherlands, for example.
Do you see, because we get asked this a lot, particularly with outbound, is there a clear difference between going to market with localized language versus English as a language, for example? Like, I think there's maybe definitely, if you're going after, we find, at least, if we're going after small to mid-sized companies, French retailers, it has to be localized language. If you're going after large enterprise accounts, C-suite, we actually see a lot of success still with our UK team, doing just as good a job, if not outperforming our local team.
Yeah.
But I'd be keen to see your take on that and thoughts.
Yeah, it again depends very much on the segment, on the ICP, and then on the persona, right? So if you're in the IT space and you're targeting CIOs, IT leaders, they are obviously very international also in the DACH market. They are very proficient in English because, they work in English. There's international teams. Versus if you're going crazy, typical mid-market Germany, HR people, that can be quite tricky to approach them in English language. But I think the other thing is also not just the language, but also how you speak, right? So US is like all about selling the big fish in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
So in Europe, customers are more skeptical about big promises. So you might also want to adapt your language and build trust first. So it's not just about the language, but actually how you sell.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess you see this time and time again. You're working across the whole of EMEA. If you could give a US-based company one piece of advice before they even think about expanding into Europe, what would it be?
So don't assume Europe is one market. So don't launch a kind of pan-EU with US messaging or English-only assets. Don't underinvest in proof. So really invest in local case studies, maybe certifications. Don't ignore security, legal, privacy points. Take a bit more time to look into that. those were not one, but
Oh, all
a
good.
bunch.
Good,
But
beautiful.
yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. How was I would normally say Q4, like we're heading into Q4. How are you feeling about it? It's normally a nervous time for salespeople, but I think yours is gonna be wildly different, isn't it? You're gonna
Yeah.
be in a whole new challenge.
Yes, but I've been planning Q4,
Okay.
so obviously, so there's a lot of interesting things happening. I think first of all, budgets are shifted because
Yeah.
everyone is like seeing the whole inbound game not working any that well anymore. I mean, there was a story about Monday.com, right? That their stock plummeted because they're seeing less organic search traffic. So you have to adapt to this new realities. You have to be visible in LLMs, and that's quite different from typical SEO content marketing. You have to be more about brand mentions. So what I see, there's a shift of budgets towards PR, towards again events to
Mm,
build brand awareness, which is interesting because we were so much about digital marketing, targeting, very niche, AB account based and so on. And now it's back to let's build a brand, let's focus on PR and
yeah.
offline events and like small. Roundtables and dinners with our target persona, so we can also meet them offline. So there's a lot happening there. I think it's still a bit of a transition period where everyone is like, okay, we don't really know what the new playbook is, but we need to adapt because what's has been working so far it doesn't anymore. So we need to really up our game, and I think there's also a very positive thing that is happening is that go to market is really about working together. So sales, marketing, customer success, they and product as well.
Mm,
They come closer together. They align much better than in the last couple of years. So go to market is being centralized under one function, and I think that's a very very positive trend that we're seeing, that we're not looking into okay, marketing is bringing in MQLs and then sales is converting them, but we're looking at go to market as a factory, right? That it's like building a car, like each component is important, and you don't look at it in isolation.
yeah, makes sense. I agree. I think we're starting to see a shift. I think there's a lot of like COVID came around and obviously people didn't socialize as much, and then obviously the rise of AI and everyone's got digital fatigue. So we're definitely seeing a big shift here in the UK. Like small events, people want to get together and have social interaction again. So I think there's gonna be more of that. And how can you then make that a strategy moving forward versus more emails, more outbound, more everything else? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I'm assuming you're taking some time off. Is it your first child?
Yes,
So
yes, I'm taking some
you'll be
time off.
a very
Yeah,
different Q4 for you. Exciting.
yes. Let's see if I can automate my LinkedIn
Yeah, yeah.
with
Congratulations.
AI.
And have an amazing time. You'll enjoy it, and it's a precious time. But if
Thank you so
people do
much.
want to check you out, where can they find you? Where can they find content? Where's the best place to reach you?
Yeah, so you can reach me on LinkedIn, Anastasia Albert. We have a Practitioner's Guide to B2B, our LinkedIn newsletter, and otherwise our website, b2b practitioners.com. And you can also follow my business partner, Norman Rohr, who is also posting interesting stuff about go-to-market. So we are both like quite active on LinkedIn, in our newsletter. So yeah, and
Amazing.
otherwise just reach out.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us, and obviously people will have to appreciate if you don't get straight back to them. You're busy with other priorities. But yeah, thank you for jumping on. Thank you for joining us.